You're listening to Edging the Truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of Edging the Truth, the podcast that takes you to the edge of the truth, but no further. It's episode 31. We're going to have tons of fun. You like that, boys?
Yeah. You got a shot at me with the tons of fun? Come on.
Starting early, ladies and gentlemen. Expect that the whole episode. I'm Andy. I'm joined by my good friends, Dave and Brian. Dave, also known as Red. You can call me Fudge. You can call Brian. We have another awesome episode here. We are super glad you joined us. If you did join us, another reminder, you can find all of our content, all of our episodes, all things Edging the Truth at edgingthetruth.com, www.edgingthetruth.com. Links to all of our social media, ways to find us. It's got links directly to things like our YouTube, youtube.com/edgingthetruth. Please throw us a subscribe, like this video, comment, tell us what you want to see next, tell us what you think about our theories or what we have to say. We love to hear it, positive or negative.
Love to hear it.
We love to hear it. Love to hear it. Totally. Happy to do it. Really going inside baseball to start the podcast. Also, follow us on Twitter. We are at Edging the Truth. We're also everywhere at Edging the Truth. Instagram, TikTok. Please follow us on TikTok. We're trying to build that up as well. And Facebook. We appreciate all the love we've gotten so far. And we're looking forward to another great episode. Speaking of another great episode, check out Brian and I on episode 2 of 2 Steps from the Edge, discussing the National Football League and if it is scripted or not. Hashtag NFL rigged. And our artificial intelligence, specifically Chat GPT, potentially becoming sentient and some other stuff like that. And a certain AI show on Twitch that has been making some waves on the internet. So check that out. That's on all of our socials, directly on the same feed that this podcast is on. So yeah, let's get into this topic. It's episode 31. There have been a lot of shit about balloons in the news recently, boys. You seen these balloons, boys?
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
We are going to be some balloon boys today. We are talking about the Chinese spy balloon.
But wait, there was a balloon boy. We can't.
No, it was a bubble boy.
No, he wasn't. No, there was a balloon boy in the weather balloon.
With like
fuck.
Balloons? All right.
Yeah.
Circle it back. We're talking about the Chinese balloons.
The Chinese spy balloon and the certain other, what is it? UAPs.
This is what they're calling them now. We'll get to that in a bit.
It's a UFO, UAP, whatever your nomenclature is.
Yeah, that was so. The other three. Yeah,
what
we just said that got shot out of the sky. All right, let's go through a little timeline here, ladies and gentlemen. So the first balloon entered U.S. airspace on January 28, north of the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, according to a senior military official. Photos from later sightings appear to show the craft was an enormous white dirigible with an undercarriage described by one U.S. official as the size of 3 buses.
That's big.
So this guy up top.
Yeah! Clip that.
We're leaning into that shit. January 30th, the vessel then entered Canadian airspace over the Northwest Territories on January 30th, the senior military official said. To the 31st, the balloon then traveled south and re-entered U.S. airspace over northern Idaho on the 31st, according to this senior military official. The White House later said that President Joe Biden was briefed the same day for the first time about the balloon. So 3 days after the first sighting is when the president was first alerted of this. We go to February 1st, 4:21 p.m. Ah, damn it. So close, like a minute off. You gotta be kidding me. All right. One of the earliest sightings confirmed by ABC News was in Reed Point, Montana, on February 1st. Actually, 4:21 p.m. There was a stoner outside smoking in Reed Point, Montana, that was ripped as
And he was
fuck
like,
that
bro,
looked up.
am I seeing that?
Dude. Look.
Have you seen this? You guys see this? Is this me? What is this? Is this
He was all by
picture of
himself.
Is that a fucking white balloon, bro?
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Is that a cloud that looks like a balloon?
This is some good shit.
I mean, I'm sure I was high at that time on that day.
From Montana, yeah. From Montana, the balloon traveled southeast through Dakota and Nebraska, according to U.S. officials. The administration later said that February 1st is when President Biden first ordered the balloon to be taken down once it was feasible with the threat of harm to civilians, ultimately delaying military action.
Yeah.
We now jump to
Take it
February
down.
4th. February 4th, 11:15 a.m. The balloon was captured over South Carolina and Lancaster as it continued moving southeastward towards the coast. Footage captured the balloon being shot down over the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of South Carolina. That was at 2:39 p.m. Eastern. The balloon was ultimately downed in U.S. airspace over U.S. territorial waters by fighter aircraft assigned to the U.S. Northern Command, according to Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. The balloon was struck by an F-22 firing a missile roughly 6 nautical miles off the South Carolina coast, according to a senior U.S. defense official. The Chinese Foreign Ministry criticized the United States for downing its balloon. China expresses the strong dissatisfaction and protest against the U.S. using force to attack civilian unmanned airships.
Their innocent balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's
innocent.
the balloon that just traveled across the fucking country for no
With a big
particular reason.
With a big old dong full of payload.
Yeah.
Just carrying nothing
Three
to see
buses.
here
Nothing to see here.
as we go
Nothing
over
to
the
see here.
Cornhusker states. You know, like
It does seem strange that like all this happens and then like, oh wait, no, there's 3 more.
Yeah. So the ministry asserted that they told the U.S. that the balloon was an airship for civilian use and entered the U.S. due to force majeure, which was completely accidental. So I did read something that said this balloon was actually supposed to fly over like Hawaii and Guam, but
that's better. That's not the United States.
I don't know, but their original path was supposed to be towards Hawaii and Guam. February 6th, U.S. Navy vessels swarmed a widespread debris field with divers and cranes to retrieve pieces of the balloon. Senior government said the FBI was expected to take custody of any recovered components of the balloon's payload and ship those to its laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, for analysis and intelligence gathering. ABC News confirmed that according to 2 senior officials, the U.S. believed the balloon had a self-destruct capability. The U.S. wasn't sure why this wasn't used, though it was probably for the same reason the U.S. didn't shoot it down over land, risk of harm. The Pentagon's Brigadier General Pat Ryder disclosed that China had conducted 4 balloon surveillance missions over sensitive sites within U.S. territory during recent years, but did not disclose exactly where or when the incidents occurred. So this ain't the first time this shit's been going down.
So
this has happened.
And I think it's important that at least when I remember reading it, they're not talking about the ones that are about to be discovered. Right, because the 3 more objects show up in the week after this announcement. The question then is, are there 4 total balloon missions that China has run over the last 5 years or year or decade? Or was that statement about the ones that we're about to find the following week? It's not clear what they're referring to. They're just saying we've had 4 balloons go over the U.S.
Yeah, sensitive sites within U.S. territory during recent years.
Yeah.
February 9th, senior FBI officials familiar with the operation said in a conference call with reporters that the Bureau's evidence response team had retrieved only a small amount of the balloon and didn't yet have enough evidence to conclude what China's intent was. Only an extremely limited amount of the vessel was recovered so far and brought to the and brought to the FBI's evidence collection lab in Quantico, officials said. Separately, State Department officials said that the Biden administration was looking into taking action against China for the surveillance balloons sent over U.S. territory. What are we going to send our own balloon over there? Like, an official confirmed that the U.S. assesses that China has overflown surveillance balloons above 40 countries, which ABC News and other outlets have previously reported. This is an ABC News article, by the way, that I'm reading. Shout out to them. Yeah. The down balloon had multiple antennas to include an array of likely capable of collecting and geolocating communications. It was equipped with solar panels large enough to produce the requisite power to operate multiple active intelligence collection sensors, a State Department official said. Administration officials also revealed more information on China's prior balloon operations targeting the U.S. in television interview. In a television interview, Defense Secretary Austin said the aircraft had been detected over parts of Florida and Texas. Senior U.S. official previously told ABC chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz. I don't fucking know.
Martha Raddatz. Yeah.
Okay. Out of this. Thank you, Rad. Thank you, Rad Rasmus. That incursions into American airspace had taken place over Hawaii and off the coast of the continental U.S., specifically near Coronado, California, and Norfolk, Virginia, where the two of the nation's largest naval bases are located.
Which, by the way, let's just point out that one of those places is on the West Coast, and one of those places is on the East Coast, okay? So if they're sending the balloons eastward, then the one that was in Virginia, it had to go all the way across the country to get there.
No shit. February 10th, U.S. officials said the undercarriage of the balloon was located in waters off South Carolina. An official told an ABC News chief global affairs correspondent, Martha
Raddatz.
It was found on February 9th, and it was largely intact. It had not yet been retrieved, the officials said, but would likely be done with a crane or a winch from a vessel. February 14th, ABC News confirmed that U.S. intelligence agencies were tracking the spy balloon when it left China on what they thought would be an eastward path toward Guam and Hawaii when it took an unexpected northern turn toward Alaska. The agencies have been examining the possibility that weather conditions pushed the balloon off course, as first reported by the Washington Post, and that the Chinese may have not initially intended to traverse the United States. However, once the balloon was in U.S. airspace, it was intentionally flown over sensitive U.S. sites. Yeah. February 15th.
Maneuver. That balloon could maneuver. So they can't say, oh, it went off course when they could maneuver that bitch.
Yeah, no shit. Totally meant to do it. I don't believe the Hawaii Guam thing for a second.
That's still America. That's still where we got bases and shit. So
yeah. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said that didn't matter whether the aircraft was blown off course. It was still a violation of U.S. sovereignty. I'm not going to opine on what the Chinese government may or may not have intended, but in key ways it doesn't matter. It's completely immaterial, Price said. It's immaterial because this was a high-altitude surveillance balloon that did violate our airspace and did violate international law. A second flying object over Alaska, February 9th. Another object was seen late on February 9th. White House spokesman John Kirby later told reporters, he said it was a small object, and according to the Pentagon, it was traveling northeasterly across Alaska, and 2 F-35 fighter jets were sent up to identify it. February 10th, the jets did another flight early this morning on February 10th to try to learn more, and that flight ended in a shoot-down. 2 F-22s tracked the object.
Yeah, shoot down.
February 22nd. Yeah, or February 10th. 2 F-22s tracked the object, and one of them fired the AIM-9X Sidewinder missile near the location of Dead Horse, Alaska.
High quality.
That's what they call a Red's penis, a Sidewinder.
Yeah.
Jimmy had on your Sidewinder.
Which is right on Prudhoe Bay. Fighter aircraft checked if the object was manned and determined it wasn't. It was difficult for the pilots to glean a whole lot of information. There was a limit to how much they could divine. The object was described.
Blew the shit up.
Yeah, no shit. The object was described as cylindrical and silverish gray and seemed to be floating. Asked if it was balloon-like, the official said, "All I can say is it wasn't flying with any sort of propulsion. So if that is balloon-like, well, we just don't have at this point. We just don't have enough at this point."
Aliens. Oh my god. I have my throat.
Yeah. President Biden briefed on February 9th, gave the order to shoot it down on the morning of February 10th. Kirby said the predominant reason Biden ordered it shot down was the safety of flights traveling at that altitude, and the fact that it was at the mercy of prevailing winds made its flight path less predictable. And the president just wasn't able to take that risk. "We don't know who owns this object," Kirby said. At the Pentagon, Brigadier General Ryder said the object was detected by ground radar. He said it was shot down over at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time. A third object over Canada. We're on number 3, folks.
Yeah,
February 10th, the North American Aerospace Defense Command detected a high altitude, so NORAD, we've talked about them before, detected a high altitude object over Alaska late on February 10th, according to Ryder, the Pentagon spokesperson. 2 U.S. F-22 aircraft monitored the object over Alaska, then Canadian aircraft joined as it crossed into Canadian airspace.
What was the Canadian aircraft? Like a prop plane? I was like going up there.
How's it going?
Yeah, it actually doesn't even tell us what kind of planes they have.
No,
It tells us we had
like
US F-22s, but no mention of...
And Canada had some planes.
It's
It was
just
just like a
too-
Learjet with some Mounties in it. They're like, yeah, here we go.
February 11th, following a call from Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to President Biden, Biden authorized that the U.S. aircraft take down the new high-altitude object. Now it's a high-altitude object.
Yes.
And a U.S. F-22 shot it down with the Sidewinder missile, a.k.a. the Red Rasmus penis. The leaders authorized that the unidentified unmanned object be taken down out of an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of their militaries. According to a White House readout of Trudeau and Biden's call, they also stressed the importance of recovering the object to determine its purpose or origin. The readout stated, Canadian and U.S. aircraft were scrambled, and U.S. F-22 successfully fired at the object. Still no mention of what the Canadian thing was. Yeah.
They don't have money for missiles.
I was
Come
going to say, they're
on.
keeping it secret, you know. They're just trying to keep at least some shit under wraps.
They're just eating some Tim Hortons and watching the Americans shoot it down. You know, it's classic stuff.
The object was shot down approximately 100 miles from the Canada-U.S. border in central Yukon. Canadian Defense Minister Anita Anand told reporters during a press briefing on February 11th. It appears to have been a small cylindrical object that was flying at about 40,000 feet. These objects did not closely resemble and were much smaller than the suspected Chinese balloon. And we will not definitively characterize them until we can recover the debris, which we are working on. Sounds like you just blew them to fucking smithereens. I don't know what debris you're looking for.
Yeah, and the fact that they're clearly different than the first one is interesting.
If we didn't think if they were balloons, we could maybe, I don't know, shoot some of the bullets at them. You know, less time.
Yeah, bullets. Yeah.
You could just pop a balloon a little bit. We're shooting $1 million missiles at a balloon. All right, I get
It's
a
not
beanbag.
sophisticated technology.
I get a balloon at the fucking carnival. You know what I'm saying? Or
like-
adult darts. I can pop a balloon at the carnival.
Doesn't there have to be? There's got to be some like metal or something to that balloon, because I feel like if it's like just a big balloon, wouldn't the missile just go like right through it?
I mean, weren't we shooting down Zeppelins in like WW1? I mean, come on, like
balloons go back. I mean, what's the Around the World in 80 Days was the 1800s when that was written. You know, like people have been flying balloons for the Civil War that I can think of. You know, at least in America, they've had balloons. It does seem a little silly. Like, also, it does float, so why couldn't you collect it? Why
Well, that's what I'm
couldn't you
saying. We
like?
can't go grab that thing.
I mean, they did that in
Is
a
it
James
too
Bond
high
movie.
for helicopters?
Isn't there a James Bond movie where he's in the
And
the
nobody could get
boat
like a.
and
Where's the
the
video?
balloon's up there, and then the plane comes and grabs the balloon, and James Bond gets yanked out of the
Nobody had
boat at the very
yes.
end.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. See.
Yeah, so why couldn't they do that with this? Well, there's
Come
one
on.
more.
Right.
There's, believe it or not, one more of these freaking things that comes.
Foe. We're on number foe. A fourth flying object over Lake Huron, February 12th. Another high-altitude object was shot down on the afternoon of February 12th, this one over Lake Huron. 3 U.S. officials confirmed to ABC News, marking the latest in a string of such incidents. It was 3 balloons 3 days in a row, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that is crazy.
The object was shot down by U.S. military aircraft, according to one of the officials. Senior administration officials said Biden directed that the object be shot down out of an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of military leaders.
We've heard that quote before.
No shit.
Abundance of caution.
This official said the object was detected on radar over Montana on February 11th and seen again on radar over Wisconsin and Michigan on February 12th. The object was octagonal in structure, unmanned, and traveling at about 20,000 feet, the official said. There was no indication of surveillance capabilities, but the administration could not rule that out. February 15th, so yesterday, the day before we recorded this. Peek behind the scenes, sorry. February 15th, Defense Secretary Austin pushed back on the idea of a possible intelligence failure, given that for years, balloons or other small objects have traversed the skies over the U.S. undetected. No, it's how you use your radars, he told NBC News. They recently made some adjustments on our radars and opened up the aperture, and they're analyzing the data a little bit differently. We typically are focused on things that are moving fast. If you're going to want something that's operating in those spaces, the Federal Aviation Administration should be notified. President Biden speaks out February 16th. Biden, after facing pressure from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle to be more transparent, gave a formal speech on the Chinese spy balloon and other aerial objects shot down by the U.S. military. He said the U.S. acted out of an abundance of caution when it shot down the 3 unidentified aerial flying objects over North American airspace.
This aggression will not stand.
You know the funniest thing about that last one is they fired 2 missiles because the first one missed.
The first guy missed, yeah.
They fucking missed, and it landed harmless. It landed harmlessly in the water. I'm like, bitch, you still misfired $1 million missile.
Yeah, that happens often.
Mm-hmm.
Acting out of an abundance of caution.
The
U.S. doesn't believe the objects were related to China's surveillance program or that they were surveillance vehicles from other countries. The most likely scenario, he said, is that they were balloons tied to private companies or research institutions for studying weather or conducting scientific research. He said he ordered the objects to be taken down due to hazards to civilian commercial air traffic and because officials couldn't rule out the surveillance risk of sensitive sites. On the Chinese spy balloon, Biden said he would make no apologies for taking it down. Fucking hell yeah.
Yeah.
The action, he said, sent a clear message. The violations of our sovereignty is unacceptable. We'll act to protect our country, and we did. And scene. Boys.
And that brings us to today, like now. That was today.
Yeah, we are as the day of the recording, so we are up to date. Hell of a timeline. Thank you to ABC News for that. So, fuck, we got a lot to unpack here, Red. I think let's move in
We got a suitcase
to
full of stuff here.
a term that we mentioned earlier, and I'm going to let you explain it because they don't really know how to identify these things, I guess. Like, is it a UFO? Is it a UAP? I'm going to kick it to you because you got a ton of awesome information for us on like what's up with this shit.
Well, I think it's fascinating that we have moved away in the last 2 weeks because of this conversation. We've moved away from the term unidentified flying object, or UFOs, which we've always had a certain kind of visual image of, and its kind of motion and flight. We talked about this in our episode about UFOs, that it seems that almost all UFO stories, they're similar. Something maybe is hovering and then it zips away really fast. It's usually in certain kinds of shapes. There's usually some lights, et cetera, et cetera. What we're talking about over the last 2 weeks is definitely not that. And so there's sort of been this new term that's been adopted, and it's the UAP. Now, what UAP actually stands for is interesting because it's being referred to in a couple of different formats. We're getting the unidentified aerial phenomenon. I've also heard the variation unidentified aerial object, so that's probably out there as well. But what the U.S. government is actually calling it is an unidentified anomalous phenomenon. And
Anomalous.
NASA, phenomenon. And
Anomalous.
as recently as October of last year, NASA announced that they were putting together a special study, an independent study team on, and the term they used, unidentified anomalous phenomena. Observations, events in the skies that cannot be identified as aircraft or as known natural phenomenon are categorized as UAPs. So I think what's interesting is that UAP as a term seems to be a larger term than what we have called UFOs in the past. So if this is the box that UFOs are in, UAPs are a larger box that UFOs are a part of. Do these balloons fall into that category? Absolutely, because they are not aircraft and they are not natural. But we've always sort of used the term UFO as being an extraterrestrial.
It's everything that we can't identify in the sky is a UFO. Period.
Exactly.
It's all objects. It's a flying object.
That's how it's always been used, and yet in popular culture, UFOs have meant something from away from the Earth, something that did not have a point of origin on the Earth. Whereas clearly, we know that this first balloon came from China, so we know it came from Earth. It started on Earth, it went up into the sky, it came back down to Earth. As for these other three things, it's probably highly likely that they also came from Earth too. So I feel like the use of this term is a way to maybe draw some attention away from UFOs and science fiction kinds of ideas, and grounding this in, these are things that we're going to take very seriously from a government perspective. We will defend and investigate against them, et cetera, et cetera. If NASA is involved, but the Space Force isn't, and this article that we just read is saying we should get the FAA involved, it's very clear nobody really knows what to do about this in a way. Like, they're clear, I would think this is the purview of the CIA or the FBI. It's an intelligence thing. And yet an intelligence thing would need an apparatus like a NASA or an FAA or Space Force, if we get to that ever. Who is supposed to deal with this? And I think that's where the difference between UFOs, which you've always thought of as space, and that's NASA, and that's Star Trek and that sort of thing, versus UAPs, which could end up being one of so many things. I mean, it's not an elegant term. I mean, it doesn't roll off the tongue. And if people still can't even remember what the A is supposed to stand for, do we actually think this is going to stick? Is this just some public relations word speak? It feels a little bit like that to me.
Unidentified anal phenomenon. Let's just
soften the term for the public a little bit and separate it from this thing that we've been talking about since the 40s, I guess, right? Roswell was the 40s. Let's keep this discussion separate from that, and yet not forget about it. It's still in there. We're just not. That's not what we're focusing on.
You trying to tell me Roswell was a Chinese balloon? Is that what you're trying to say? Are you playing their propaganda game?
I mean, it did come from China. Where did COVID come from?
All right, now we're going to
now
COVID.
we're doing it. We're doing it.
Balloons flying over the country. I mean, it's been happening for years. I'm just saying, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to deliver something via balloon.
That is some Alex Jones shit.
And by the way, I don't believe that.
They're giving people COVID through the balloon across the country.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I think
they're making the frogs gay.
I heard somebody say that on Fox News that this balloon was bringing Chinese COVID over.
Of course.
No.
A sitting congressperson has said. I'll say that. But
see, I said it. Just to be clear, I said it in jest.
Yes, they said it in like, I'm raising money on it, is how they said it. But
that is crazy.
I think we need to talk to, besides the Chinese balloon, which, isn't all of our balloons made in China anyway? I mean, isn't, all that stuff. I never got a water balloon that wasn't made in China. I'm just saying. All our balloons are made in China. But that's what Party City says too. That's not me. But what's the source of these balloons, fellas? All right, I feel like we're pretty conclusive that the one balloon that we have pictures of, was, yes, a spy balloon. But the other three, my friends, that's what we're going to talk about right now. That's what, all right, it's like what they want you to think is it's just probably some college project or some private company's little thing, and like, oh, they lost that balloon, and that's what they want you to think, that it's benign. But no, you don't think if any of those people lost a balloon, they wouldn't be out there saying they shot down our balloon, give me more funding? Yes. That's what I'm saying. We don't have one picture of them, not one picture, which leads me to my most logical conclusion, boys. That we got some aliens. We got them aliens, friends, and let me tell you why.
Wait,
right?
the skeptic is going to tell us that these are.
This is a historic moment on the podcast. Everybody, listen the fuck up.
Let me tell you the fuck why. Okay, let me tell you why. Because we don't got, like I said, we got no pictures of them, and all of a sudden we changed our parameters. Now, if you were extraterrestrial beings visiting, the world for a while, you probably did probes and stuff to see what our capabilities of and knew our parameters, so you could avoid that shit. If they expanded or changed that stuff, they couldn't maybe not quick enough to think, or we finally saw something that we saw, and stuff still moving. And some of these high altitude balloons, I can understand. You could traverse the world at the high altitude, but some of these mid range altitudes, where the planes are flying and stuff, like that's questionable. I feel like it's questionable. And like I said, no pictures. Everything is conveniently remote or at the bottom of a lake. I think they already recovered the missile. Then they haven't recovered the freaking balloon yet.
The one that missed?
The one that missed. But you get what I'm saying? So I feel like, and all of a sudden, but it was like 3 back to back to back, and now we've been quiet for a week. We're quiet. No ballooning, but it's like a lot of the stuff the military said, like a lot of the briefing. I listened to a lot of the press briefings about some of this stuff, in live. And some of the stuff that some of those people said from the Pentagon and stuff, it was just like they weren't saying, they were just saying. You know what I'm saying? They like, we don't rule anything out. They're like, we can't rule anything out, including that stuff. And when the person was asked directly if they thought it was like, aliens, he didn't say no. He basically said like, we can't say no. It's there. And I feel like,
I thought Biden said it wasn't alien related.
That's what they would say if it was. What do you come on? That's what they
I'm just bringing it out there because you said the other guy didn't say anything about it.
All I'm saying is this show is turning Brian into a believer.
Using the Chinese balloon as an excuse to shoot down these other alien craft that they finally noticed, and they're like, "We got to get this technology, man." That's why you don't shoot down balloons with missiles.
Okay, so riddle me this.
Other flying things with missiles. The F-22 fighter, and I will go one more on you, has been in service for 30 years. This is the first action an F-22 fighter has ever fired at something in the air. Was this?
Is that true?
These things. Yes.
Wow.
That is true. There has been no air combat with this fighter until now. Why are we using our air combat fighter to shoot down balloons with missiles?
You don't have a Space Force.
But you get what I'm saying. There are other planes with the capabilities.
Isn't the Space Force a thing? I thought it was actually a thing.
But
I mean, there is. It is a thing.
These are in apparently this no man's land because space up here, like Earth down here. This like area in here, the DMZ of the sky, I guess. Nobody can handle that. I don't know who's supposed to handle that.
What a fucking lesson we're getting here.
Okay, but explain this to me then. Why would UFOs, which have arguably been visiting our country at the very least since the 1940s, go from being this certain kind of size and shape and definitely speed, and has never apparently been shot down, to now in 1 week they're slow as fuck and they just float in the sky and have no propulsion to their own, and they get shot down?
Fellas, did you see any video of any of those things? Did you see?
I did not. I did not
see any pictures. Did you see anything? They
shot
them down with missiles.
No bones, no poop.
They shot them down with missiles. They already found the Chinese balloon. They can't find something in the lake, in a Great Lake, where they know it fell.
Yeah, one of them was in. So that was another question I had.
The one in the Yukon landed on ice. It didn't even sink on ice somewhere.
And who gets the one that landed in the Yukon? I would assume Canada.
Well, we shot it down.
It depends on which side of the Yukon it is, man.
Well, it's in Canada.
You take a train across and then you come back. It's a whole thing. The tourists do it. You're like, I'm on the Yukon on this side. I'm on the Yukon on that side.
It's a whole thing.
It with so I'm just saying, like, that we haven't seen any of this stuff. They haven't recovered any of it, and all of the stuff about size, shape, and stuff. And why would we use our most advanced fighters, our most advanced, highly capable air-to-air fighters to fire on balloons? Especially after the first one was a balloon. Why would we send the same? Why couldn't the Canadian geese fly into the balloon and fucking knock that thing down? You know what I'm saying? Canada does have fighters.
I have the answer.
So why didn't they take the shot?
I have the answer, Brian.
What's the answer?
Out of an abundance of caution.
Oh my god!
Did you guys see?
You're drinking Kool-Aid Red.
Did you guys see
already?
Did you guys see?
We acted out of an abundance of caution. That's going to be my new line.
Did you see?
I got down 3 alien craft this week, fellas, and that's why there hasn't been more. Because after you shoot down 3 alien craft, it spreads to the aliens. Maybe we should stop going for a second. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, it's a little bit of other balloons out there. I'm sure of it.
But just so I get your narrative,
it's a little bit of a fuck around and find out.
Yeah, your narrative is that the aliens were paying attention to us taking over the Chinese spy balloon, and they're like, "Hey, this is our chance. Let's get in."
No. His argument was that the alien balloons were already there. The government knew about them, didn't say shit. And then the Chinese balloon happened. They were able to shoot that down. So they're now like, all right, we've got an excuse. Let's fucking talk about these other balloons. Yeah. Or like,
clarify.
It's like, you know, like that casual like Friday news dump when like they like a big corporation or like a sports league like has some big news, but it's like not necessarily great. They try to like dump it in the middle of a Friday or like just to try to get it or just to try to get it buried. That.
Yes. I'll buy that.
But you guys are still assuming they're balloons. You're assuming their speed. Okay. You're assuming they told you the truth about all that stuff.
Yes.
F-22 fighters don't shoot down.
Well, they did say, they did say cylindrical. I mean, one of them was described as cylindrical, which does seem
just like ships we've heard. And like I said, the Chinese balloon made us change our parameters, which all of a sudden allowed us to see the aliens. And we're like, we got to shoot those bitches down because we want that shit. Because we couldn't see them before. But like I said, there hasn't been anything since. Nothing since. It's too much to go from 3 that quick to nothing. especially with
that is a little weird.
You know, we've also pushed those expanded parameters to all the rest of our radars around the world for our bases and all that shit. And you're not here, and we sure as hell shared it with all of our partners in all NATO and stuff, so they could see the Chinese balloons.
Yeah.
And so why haven't they been shooting down more shit? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just too much for there to be like bam, 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 nothing. And
by the way,
we're building conspiracy here. It's the don't believe what
you're saying. It's an alien conspiracy.
I feel like, but I feel like
I love it.
You know, I'm telling you, expanding our parameters. Now all of a sudden we're seeing stuff we weren't seeing.
Did you guys see how much it costs just to like use those F-22s, like bring them out for just like an hour? It's like $30,000. Like every time they bring those out, it's an obscene amount of money.
Millions plus dollars. You know, everything about that thing is expensive. Why would you bring it out to shoot down a balloon? Why would you shoot a $1 million missile out of a balloon when you have guns? All of these things, you know what I'm saying?
Bullets would do the trick.
Yeah, especially after like the first one where it's like, and you know, and if it was going that slow, all that stuff. Why are you using a supersonic jet to look at something going slow that they said was in commercial airline lanes?
Well, this is
which means they were at a height where any of our planes could have been there. AC-130, any of that stuff. They could have taken that bitch down with a gunship. I played Call of Duty. I shot that thing. I know how fast and slow that plane goes.
But even then, why couldn't you just like connect a bunch of dudes to ropes and like hang them out of a? It's like it's a help. You know, it's like
and hang them out of a plane and they just shoot it.
Just grab it. Just grab it. They don't have to shoot it. You just grab it.
The point is, those were not too high for helicopters as well. I believe helicopters has also been in that site, and if it was going that slow, I'm telling you don't scramble the most expensive advanced plane to shoot down balloons. The first one, maybe.
I mean, only unless they think that it's I think
slow. If they said they were going that slow, let's still just scramble the expensive, fastest jet we got to go after the slow.
Okay, but let's just assume then for a second though that they're bombs. Let's just say it's a weapon. It's a bomb. You're gonna get rid of it as quickly as possible, as most destructively as possible. That only that part of it makes sense to me. If it was a bomb disposal, you detonate the bomb, you'd isolate the bomb, you'd get rid of it, you'd detonate it. But even then, it's the unknown factor part of it is what doesn't make sense to me. You know the first balloon's from China. You shoot it down, but you already know it's from China. The other three, you don't know where they're from, and you blow them up. I don't disagree with that being a big plot hole.
We had space dogfights, guys. So I'm trying to tell you, it was like Will Smith all over again. You know what I'm saying? Like this Independence Day. The guy, landed, had a cigar, the whole thing. I'm telling you, we do not scramble our fastest, best air-to-air planes to shoot down balloons. Especially because they went out once, the Alaska one. They went out once to take a look. Yes. Then they went out again to shoot it down.
With the Canadians.
No, that's the second one was with the Canadians. The first one in Alaska was all us. Yes, but they still went out there twice. Why did they send the same planes when they knew that shit was slow? When they knew they could have seen it with a different plane and shot it
with a telescope?
I'm telling you, fellas. I'm telling you.
So what, Brian? Tell me this: you're all in on this theory. What's the mission objective of these supposed aliens? What the fuck are they doing up in Alaska and Canada?
Bro, we don't know. They're on vacation. They're probing. They're trying to save the polar bear. I don't know the vibes. They just out there in these streets.
That's a first.
They're on these streets. They're just trying to live their alien lives. But I'm telling you, everything they say. This is the first time, I'm the permanent thing, and this is the first time I'm like, I don't believe what you motherfucker. When the military guy's like, I watched it. He didn't really have a straight face. He's like, he just couldn't. He's like, I can't rule it out. And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker knows there's aliens. And I could see it in his face. He knew it.
I think they've known they're aliens for a long time. I mean, you can look up on YouTube, and there are former Navy pilots with the footage, like talking about their experience.
Pandemic, and nobody paid attention to it. I mean,
so that's you think we're going to get a report on this like that at all? And if we do, what, in fucking 15 years?
Fellas, I don't know, but if I get another fucking Roswell picture where some guy's holding a piece of fabric or some shit, I'm just saying they're going to go back to the oldies but goodies, and I feel like, you know, in a few years we're going to have space like, you know, Independence Day style spaceships.
Well, for example, back to what you were saying, Fudge, I have a declassified document from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence from June of 2021. And it is called Preliminary Assessment, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. And it is a, you know, not long 10-page document. I don't think it's the complete document. It's probably just the portion that's been, you know, released by the government. And this was before all of this stuff. But, you know, the basic summary is that whatever UAPs are, they could pose a challenge to U.S. security. And that's the upshot. And that's all this is, that, you know, that's what this is meant to. It does say, you know, it does have lots of statistics. It says blah, blah, blah. In this study, there were 144 reports and blah, blah, blah. So
if it was a balloon, fellas, we have surface to air missiles. You don't put pilots in harm's way to shoot down a balloon. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I love this. I love this, Brian.
Like, it's Alaska. We could have a guy point up in the air with a moose rifle and take that down. You know what I'm saying? If it was a balloon, I'm just saying, like, it just doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
Let's go back to the Chinese balloon for 1 second.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Canada part does make. I mean, the China part does make sense.
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel like,
for real. That's
like
Chinese balloon of origin of the thing. I mean, like a goddamn satellite hanging from a balloon. I mean, come on.
This is a classic, like, magic by misdirection kind of thing, where we're looking over here and we're focusing on the China thing and we're grouping these other things into that, and yet it's really a whole other separate thing. What these other three things are.
We opened our aperture, realized we could detect fucking aliens, and we're like, shit, let's shoot those bitches down. And while we can still use this as a cover.
Yeah.
Government at work. I'm telling you guys.
Government made a statement to those aliens, and they're not coming back.
We want that technology. It's our own greed that will make us kill the extraterrestrials instead of talking with them.
We blew it up. We blew up the technology.
We just fucking blew it to smithereens with the Sidewinder. That very well could be what they want us to think, boys. The Chinese balloon, we let that shit get all the way across the country. What?
I did not understand that.
So
they said that they could block. Once they knew it was there, they were learning how to block the capabilities, and they were using it as, like, you know, basically our exercise.
What capabilities? Like, what the fuck was that thing doing? Like, what's the mission objective for that Chinese balloon?
Picture, because no matter what, yes, they have satellites, but like, you still can only get so clear of a picture from a satellite.
Oh, so I bet there's things on there.
See our bases more, even our cities, even our everything. They just want to see what's going on.
Even, like, you know, something to detect radiation or heat sensitivities or, you know, electrical usage, weather, all kinds of things. I think science. It was just a giant. Is enough
I mean, it's as much as it's a science collector. It's also knowledge is power. You know, and no one, even if your fucking middle of your country is going to go into a drought because you collected that data, is like, oh, their crops are going to be down. So, you know, you can plan for that. It was there to collect. I'm sure it had every sensor you can think of on that. Yeah. It wasn't like they had, you know, a Canon camera in there. You know what I'm saying?
No, they said 3 buses. 3 buses.
3 buses full of equipment. Like,
full of little Chinese kids riding bicycles, powering the thing. Yeah. Harder! Pedal harder!
You know the Chinese have some sort of animal to run it, like some sort of monkey or squirrel thing.
Just fully on. Yeah. They did say there was a shitload of solar panels on that thing.
Yeah.
Capable of just giving it enough power. So is this something you think we should be concerned about? I mean, obviously, from what we've read and talked about on the podcast, ain't the first time it's happened. Are we in danger, boys? Is China coming for us?
No, but I think that China is going to stop. I think they're going to put a stop to this thing, especially because I think that they're still going to test another country because apparently they fly these all over. But now that
40 countries, there have been Chinese balloons over 40 countries.
Well, the point is, next time it's over a NATO country, we're going to shoot that shit down because it's like now we've established that you can't because a lot of people have been shooting stuff down of any sort of spy capabilities. I can't think of anything in recent history until this. So
China's gotta stop. I mean, they're gonna change. They're gonna change strategies.
But America versus China is one thing. But once you get a second country involved, a NATO ally, where all people must respond, it's a whole. It's an incident. It's an international incident, and that's and that's what they want to avoid. I hope. I mean, their own thing kind of ruined their own balloon program. If it was a mistake, then they kind of ruined their whole spy balloon program. But if they keep doing it, then we're going to start shooting it down. And then when we start shooting down satellites next,
and I feel like I feel like this feels very 1980s. Like when it was Russia versus the U.S. putting up satellites and
it's a different
Star Wars and all that kind of silly shit, which never
it's
really
no man's land war.
Yeah, it is, and also one that almost everybody on the planet can't see, can't quantify because we don't have pictures of it. We can't see what's going on. The discussions about it are sketchy to begin with because it's intelligence related. So then, of course, they're not going to show their hand and tell us what's really going on.
Well, and it's almost a gentleman's agreement that we don't attack each other's satellites.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens when they're just start just taking out shit and we start taking out their stuff and that's the more likely outcome of this.
I feel like the golden eye would have been the way to do this, right? Like when
up there, bro. You don't know.
When James Bond GoldenEye came out,
you don't know what Musk is fired up there. Oh, he could be stroking a cat somewhere. You know what I'm saying? That guy seems a little off. I'm just saying.
Right.
He's fucking stroking himself.
I don't disagree that there's a lot of holes in, especially these most three recent ones. It just seems everything has been so vague, whereas everything was so specific about the China thing. I think that's the biggest one for me.
Pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures.
We have tons of pictures.
They were just balloons, and we made so many passes at them.
Yeah.
You're telling me we didn't have one picture?
You can, by the way, we will be posting links in our Discord. If you have not followed our Discord, there's links on our website on how to do that, and we post all the links there for the references that we use to prepare for these shows, as well as the ABC news article, and that will be linked also down below in this video. So if you want to see pictures of the stuff that we're talking about, we can't show them. They're owned by Associated Press, but they look like what you think. It looks like an aerial balloon that's been shot down, a bunch of fabric, a bunch of white fabric.
Also, who released those pictures? The government. I rest my case. Case rested. Case closed.
It's aliens.
Aliens. I'm telling
you. Aliens is the verdict from this podcast. Apparently, this has been awesome. Episode 31 of Edging the Truth. We got
Conspiracy
Brian today. This is
don't believe the machine.
It's absolutely historic episode where we get Brian in just going full shenanigans, just not having any of it. But I think we had a really good episode here, boys. We got deep into the timeline, some thoughts on the UAPs versus the UFOs, some theories on what we really think is going down.
Theories. It's facts.
With Chinese spy balloon, the 4 balloons, if you will, cylindrical objects shot down. Well, not 4, so the 3, the over Alaska, Canada, and then Lake Huron. Action-packed episode. We thank you guys for being here with us. If you liked what you saw, please like this video, comment, tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't like, tell us what you want to hear next, tell us your thoughts about this topic. Do you think it's actually aliens? We're definitely going to be clipping that up, throwing that theory out there, seeing what we can get about that. Is there something they're not telling us? Yes. This has been episode 31 of Edging the Truth. Make sure you go to www.edgingthetruth.com for all of your needs. It's got all of our episodes, got a little more information about us, ways. It's got our merch as well, Red. Show them the merch, Red. We've got t-shirts, we've got hats, we've got mouse pads, bunch of different designs, bunch of cool stuff. If you like the show, you want to help support the show, buying some merch is a great way to do that, and we would absolutely love if you did. Follow us on social media everywhere at Edging the Truth. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Follow us on the talk, baby. Trying to build that up. Get your algorithm with a little Edging the Truth in it. Another great episode, boys. Also, last thing. Call the voicemail. Red, can you throw that up there one more time? 917-979-6071. Do you have a theory like Brian's about these objects that we just shot down? Do you think it's aliens? Do you think it's something else? Do you think it's something we need to be worried about? What do you think about the Chinese spy balloon? What do you think about something else that's going on? We'd love to hear from you, no matter what it is. Well, I guess not no matter what it is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no matter what it is.
I'll take no matter what it is.
917
bring it this way.
979. What are the last four?
917-979-6071.
Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andy. That's Red. That's Brian. This has been Edging the Truth. We thank you for being here, and we're gonna get those goddamn aliens.
I believe X-Files. Nice.
Visit edgingthetruth.com for more information and links to all our social media and podcast directories.